Hi, and welcome to another Tabletop Talk and Draw. My name is Storn Cook, and today we're doing a character that is actually mine. I am going to be playing this character, so I wanted to kind of go through the process of what I was thinking and what the character concept is and how I brought this about. And so it's going to be a watercolor, and then I'm going to take it into digital. So this is a good time to let you guys know if you like this video, you like this kind of content, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. I would really appreciate it. And we've got a hiccup coming up here in a moment. Hi, and so my camera had some issues. Had a little bit of problems with some loose cable, and so we're getting sort of fractured images going on. And we'll pick it up a little bit later on when I discovered the problem and I managed to stop it. And I think it's fixed from this point forward. So, anyways, we'll keep going. Thanks. So the character concept is he is sort of a fantasy version of the sort of the Iroquois or Haruno Sane, I think is how you say it. I apologize if I butchered that. I don't mean anyone any disrespect. I come from land of the Cayuga, which was the smallest of the Confederation. So I this has always been kind of a subject that's been near and dear to my heart. Um, and so what I'm doing is I the sort of the raw sienna, the lighter brown is watercolor soluble pencil, and then the darker pencil is a darker brown, and I'm using that for areas where I know I want a solid, darker color when I go to the watercolor. So here I am just getting my watercolors ready and stuff like that. So that's the drawing. So it's a shield, it's a hatchet, sort of homespun stuff. Um, and I'm gonna go in and start doing some watercolor to. And this is really boring. I have to stop this. Oh, here we go. Here's the watercolor coming in. Sorry about that. I'll leave it in. I'll leave it in. So yeah, I'm getting into sort of the earth tones first, not earth tones, flesh tones first, and it's interesting because I did the flesh tones, and when I was done with the watercolor, I actually went, oh, the flesh tones are too light. I wanted to go back and darken them up, and then I ended up doing that. That was when I made the decision to go digital, because I had already kind of you know, did what I thought was going to work watercolor wise, and if I went in there and kept messing around, it could get really muddy and really ugly very quickly. Um, so just a lot of detail work and bouncing around. I wanted to keep the tomahawk or the hatchet head very small, but the haft very long. Um, uh, something that's sort of realistic and not like Warhammer 4000 40,000K, um or just the Warhammer stuff in general, which tends to be very exaggerated, or World of Warcraft, which the things tend to be very exaggerated. My character is named Kele Falling Hawk, so I wanted a hawk motif on the shield. He's a shaman. He's a young shaman who never finished his training, so he went on a quest to save some of his people. He made a vow, and unfortunately did not succeed in saving his people, and so he can never return home, and that sort of leaves him the door open for him to meet the other player characters and become a part of the troop or the outfit. This is a very sword and sorcery game. We're actually using Conan 2D20, and I suppose this would be a Pict in Hyboria, but we're not using Hyboria. We're just using the Conan rule set. So watercolor is something that I've toyed with and I played with here and there. It's not a technique I have mastered by any stretch of the imagination. It's something that I'm learning as I kind of go, and I keep revisiting. I keep coming back to it, and it's a fairly fast technique, but it's an unforgiving one. You really got to know what you're doing, and I don't. So I'm doing the sort of the best I can, and learning. But this is something that's fun for me. This is fun, and I would like to encourage other artists to do this. I mean, some artists find one medium and they stick with it and they master it, and that's completely fine. That's completely okay. I have always been an artist who will sort of go, oh, I want to try this for a little bit. I want to try acrylics for a little bit. I want to play with gouache. I want to play with oil. I want to play digitally, so whenever I've done something for a while, I want to try something new and different. And I think for me that works because what I learn in one medium usually translates to other mediums. Not the exact technique or anything, but the decision making that is happening, and certainly hand-eye control, things like that. So I think it's all good. There's no such thing as working in a medium that's going to be bad for your art. It isn't. People might not like your style as much. One thing you'll notice is the water's pooling around in the legs, and so I kept moving the paper around, trying to get that to dry. But I liked it. I sort of wanted that spread there. I was very wet in that place. Um, so yeah, just there was a bit of detail. There's a bit of a tangency there on the shoulder and the quiver. I don't particularly like. I also went into the shield a little too dark on the metal parts, and wanted to light. I want to lighten those up a little bit um, when I get to the digital. I end up darkening a lot of stuff, but that was the one place I ended up lightening. Lightning. Here I am, sort of going. Sometimes you don't see my hand in the frame, and I'm not painting. It's because I'm mixing up a color. I'm mixing up something. I'm trying to get it right because it's with watercolors. Not only did you put the two or three or four colors together correctly, but you have the right consistency in the paint because it's a transparent paint. So it's a the way I kind of paint is to sneak up on things. I'm not painting as opaquely as I do with gouache or acrylic. Um, and and so you can see there's a little test paper to the right of my drawing, and that's where I try out is the mixture the right one? Does it work for whatever I'm painting at the moment? Like I went in a little dark with that. I ended up not being happy with some of this stuff. But it's a learning process. I'm learning. I ended up drawing that foot a little too large. I had a goof with the paint, and it sort of expanded beyond where I wanted it to, and so that was something I would later on come and fix digitally. Um, and it's interesting too when I take it digital. It comes from a scan, and the scan changes the colors very subtly. The sort of the yellow of the medicine bag ends up becoming very saturated and very orange, and I had to push it back a couple of times when I started working digitally. I'll talk about that, So, and I wanted sort of a kind of like some kind of deer skin overlaying on the shield there, and we're coming along. We're doing okay. Things are moving along nicely. Um, so one of the things that this character is able to do is create fetishes, which sort of gives you extra morale or extra soak ability to mental and mystical attacks. So I wanted the shield to have like feathers and feathers coming off of everything, and the hatchet has a feather on the pommel, and the bow has a hatchet coming off, or feathers coming off of the bow there. And yeah, I just keep kind of going in and keep reworking stuff. And um, I think you can already tell like his skin tone is a little Caucasian. It's a little bright or light, and I just didn't feel like I had the control of the paint to get exactly what I wanted. So that was when I made the decision to say, you know what, this is going to be my underpainting. I will take it into digitally and mess with it even more, and you'll see. I'll show you the difference. So this is what's got scanned in. and it's a little brighter than you expect. So here we have him scanned in, and I'm going to start doing an outline on a new layer around him. I'm using red, just it doesn't matter what color I'm using because I just want to be able to have the selection of the character and be able to separate him and put him on his own layer and get away from it's an easy way to clean up. I mean, if you look closely at my paper, you can see some smudges, and this is a way of making that easier, especially when I'm using a multiply brush. Um, um, that it fills up the pixels that I want and stays away from the pixels, not the pixels, the white space, which um, only looks white because I have a piece of paper behind, or a layer behind it. You'll notice that I trimmed down that foot. So when I select everything on the outside, that'll go away. Um, you'll see that I had a couple little gaps. I just need to fill those gaps in, and then it's complete. And I can select it and copy him from the original and paste him on his own layer, and now I can play on that layer. And I'm starting to redraw his hands in, which I had painted out by accident in the watercolor. I wanted that hand just to barely be seen underneath the shield, and I was using a a brush that is a like kind of a chalky pencil, so it picks up a little bit of the green color underneath. In fact, everything I try to have some texture in the brush, or I use multiply in order to kind of keep that texture in there, unless I'm going with a really opaque highlight, like I just did on that amulet. The highlight on that amulet is and the sort of the medicine bag turquoise things. Um, those are kind of opaque, but I do that only in very small places. Um, One of the advantages of working uh, digitally, or if I had gone in with gouache or something like that, is going in with those opaque paints and hitting those highlights. I find doing highlights, unless I really draw out everything, and I'm very anal about where I'm placing all of my color, um, is difficult in watercolor. I just don't have that sense yet of how to leave that white space behind and have it read right. um, so here I've darkened up the skin considerably, and then I go back and rework the lighter areas with some highlights and some lighter skin tones and stuff like that. And this is much closer to what I was envisioning for his skin tone. And this was something I felt more comfortable doing digitally than I did in watercolor. Like, one of the things I didn't like about the watercolor was I wanted that the side of his head to feel like it was stubble and shaved, and I just happened to put down a color that was too dark, and it took up too much. Um, it's too similar to the sort of the mohawk that he has. So digitally, I'm able to go in there and sort of scumble around, knock that bag back. I want that shield to kind of pop forward, so I keep darkening things in the background, or in the back of the character. There is no background. So yeah, this is a continual process of sort of sneaking up on what I want in terms of value, and what I want in terms of chroma, and even hue. So this is sort of the process that I go, and this was a tremendous amount of fun to do. I mean, to go from the watercolor as sort of my base foundation, and then add to it with the digital. I found that to be really fun, and it's fairly quick because a lot of the structure's there. I'm just sort of making decisions to try to really get to where I wanted to go with this. And the dog is under the table and is demanding my attention at the moment, so I'm going to pet him. That's why I'm leaning forward here a little bit. I darkened up the hair because I wanted the hair to be a little darker than what it was. Um, just sort of these color choices continuing to go back and darken things up a little bit, and then come back and hit them with some highlights and whatnot. But a lot of the watercolor actually stayed. Just sort of like, I never really touched the feathers or fetishes on the that's coming off the bow. Um, I went in and tweaked a brush to do something. I just got a new computer, so a lot of my brushes haven't I haven't like organized them the way that I like to have them organized. So I'm still sort of stumbling through that a little bit. Um, that makes things go a little bit further because I was very particular about my brush order and where I could find brushes, and I'm like, oh, I don't have this brush here. Oh yeah, I must have imported that brush from this set. Blah blah blah. And yeah, so I have to kind of go and do that as I catch those things. Um, but here we are, and we're pretty much done. So it'll be a side by side comparison right here of the digital and, oh, well, first watercolor and then the digital. Which one do you like better? If you have an opinion, please leave a comment down below. And thank you very much for tuning in. And until next time, keep on keeping on. Appreciate it.